What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Sarkback, the movieguy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Child Star. This is a documentary that's currently available on Hulu with audio description. It's directed by Demi Lovato. It is it's an interesting film because basically I'm going to have to tell you right up front what it's about, and it'll immediately color the opinions that I have of it. So Demi does a pretty decent job of asking other people about their experiences as a child star, but she uses her own experiences to dominate the story. So it's both sort of like a personal journal, but it's also well, what did other people go through? But she doesn't really use those experiences to mirror her own. She just kind of like peppers in other people's thoughts on what it was like for them to be a child star so that it makes her look like her experience. I don't want to say crazy, like she's not crazy, but I can't think of a different way to say that. That like, you know, my experience is not unique. Other people had similar experiences, but it's just the way that she explores it, and then she just sort of explores her own, but she explores her own sort of at length, far more than anybody else's. And I would say there are more child stars, and I'm sort of intrigued as to why we chose certain people, why we kind of had limited, and just the weight, the balance of it, it kind of shows first time filmmaker Demi Lovato. Plus, when she's making this like sort of personal story about herself, of course she's gonna lean into, well, I want to tell my story. Then it's sort of like, well, why didn't you just tell your story? Why did you need other child stars to talk about their life interspersed in around yours? She doesn't always correlate. Like, she sits down and she has these very meaningful conversations with people like Christina Ricci and Drew Barrymore, Keenan Thompson, um, Chris Columbus, which I thought was really interesting. Um, but obviously there are more child actors and actresses of the time, and there are some that notably had negative experiences. I mean, obviously we get Drew Barrymore in here, which is one of the more notable negative child star experiences, but would not be the only person to have that. Even people more recently that could have commented on things. I was thinking of child actors and actresses that went through really specific things, and I think are at a place where they could comment on them. I realized that like getting like Lindsay Lohan and Amanda Bynes would have been like, I mean, child star would be if those two had been talking openly about what it was like for them, you'd already have seen child star. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people have been waiting for those two to open up about what it was like for them forever. So they're going to want to do it in their own project. But even somebody like Ariel Winter, who oddly people were talking about her breast size before she was 18. Like adults were commenting on that. And so it gave her like a complex as to, I think she actually went through breast reduction surgery when she turned of age. And as a result of the constant, and it's like, that's so inappropriate and so gross that we ever thought about that, that we ever looked at Ariel Winter and we're like, oh, that. Or the Olsen twins, who, it was like really creepy. They were like people who are like waiting for them to turn 18. And it's like the fact that you're waiting for them to turn 18 means that you're already thinking about things and you just need it to be okay. So it's gross. It's still gross. Like, there's so many things out there in the world and people who have had these weird experiences as child stars on sets and stuff. And like somebody like Mara Wilson, who just like walked away. who got to a certain point and it just wasn't fun for her anymore. That she would have been great to have. So there's like two documentaries that I want Demi Lovato to make. There's one that is kind of what she's making, which is she, as a child star, is having these conversations with child stars. And they're having this sort of like, oh yeah, I understand your thing because I had that thing and we both went through that. And it's like, oh, we had this shared experience. It's what Andrew McCarthy was trying to do with Bratz uh, over the summer, which is another Hulu documentary where he went around to members of the Brat Pack and adjacent members of the Brat Pack uh, as much as he could for everybody except for like Anthony Michael Hall, who was like, why is he missing from this film? But yeah, so he went around to like everybody and talked to them and talked to other people, culture representative people, the guy who coined the term Brat Pack. But he didn't make it about himself. Like he just sort of was the central person. And through his interviews, he also got to reveal things about himself. So Demi could have done that, but she uses this as sort of like a vehicle for her own personal story while also trying to tell other people's stories. So it doesn't quite gel, but I'm very here for it. At the same time, I want Child Star to work so bad because I was very interested in it. I was very interested in what these actors and actresses had to say. Like I learned so much about Christina Ricci, and I didn't know, 'cause she's like one of my favorite actresses. Especially when I was a kid growing up, I was like, "Where's Christina Ricci? I need to watch a Christina Ricci movie." She just spoke to me like on a level. Like I love Christina's work. You know, across the board. Unabashedly, I love Casper so much. I think she's so great in Casper, but I also obviously Wednesday, and I love Addams Family Values because it gave Christina more to do. So, um, but to know that why she went into acting and like where she came from was sort of this weird abusive household. You know, that her dad was like this former cult leader, failed cult leader, and he was very volatile. And she used acting as a way to get out of the house and get away from him, and also with her mom, and that they bonded. And the pressure to put on such a child like that is like, if I have to be good at this because it has to get me out of the house, I have to be away from my dad. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I mean, it says so much about awareness of what children are aware of at a certain age, about even how a woman, you know, how the mother was unable to necessarily even get away from this crazy ass dude in the time period in the late 80s, you know, on her own. You know, I mean, this was a time period when often they looked at, you know, people would split up and they would look and they'd be like, well, mom doesn't have a job. It's like, that's because she's a stay-at-home mom. Like, with, you know, and give custody to the father. So, we still weren't doing things the way that was right. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about here. And that's why I'm like, you could have explored so much. Demi could have gone one way and just stuck there and gone the other way. And just, she could have made like two different films, but she tried to make two films and then throw them together. And it's kind of clunky, but I hate saying that because I so want to love this film. And I so want to be like, yes, this film was perfect because I love Demi Lovato and I love learning more about her. But I did feel like I watched two different movies that were thrown together. I feel like I watched like the lost episodes to Quiet on Set. And then I watched like a Demi Lovato documentary. So, but they were like cut together. And I I just I want to see both. I do, but I want to see them as two differently coherent movies, like as companion pieces. like maybe like Child Star and then Child Stars, like release two different films that are like one is a companion piece to the other, and one is just you, and then the other one is you interviewing everybody. I think that is probably that would have been great. But this I'm still rooting for this because it's like I don't want you to not see it, but I did kind of feel like I was like, what are we doing? But to see Demi directing and doing this like her first feature length documentary, uh, like I'm proud. Like I think go for it. You do it. You tell your own story. Um, and I think she came so close to being able to tell two stories that she should have just done it. Uh, so yeah, those are my thoughts. The audio description here is pretty good. I could have used more like who are these kids? I think it interviews like a lot of current child actors, but I don't know who any of them are. They're like really like young kids that comment like throughout the film about stuff, and I'm like, am I supposed to not know who they are? Are these unknown actors anyway? Is this supposed to make an impact? Uh, if I could see, would I recognize them? Is the question. Uh, with my movie knowledge and TV knowledge and everything, would I recognize those actors? If the answer is no, then fine. I don't care. If they're just like random kids, if this is like kids say the darndest things, and it's just like I don't, fine. Then I don't. But they just kind of pop up and they say things, and I'm like I don't know who these people are. Um. So, yeah, the footage is pretty good. It kind of flashes through and it lets you know when she's something with Chance, Camp Rock, whatever it is that she's doing. You know, her home studio where she records music and stuff like that. So her life, her story, and she admits to some stuff, but Demi, again, if you would split into two films, I feel like Demi could have gone darker and more honest and really kind of uncovered her own demons, even more so than she does here. And then also had another film where she talks to other child stars about being child star and had that sort of experience, much like what Andrew McCarthy did with Bratz. So that's it. That's what I got. I think you should check out Child Star though. Even though my review of it, my score may not be as high, I am supportive of the film in a bigger way than you would necessarily think by listening to the grade. So if I'm hoping you're seeing like my face, my enthusiasm, if you can see. If not, I hope you hear the enthusiasm in my voice. I think there's something here. And I kind of like the fact that I want to encourage Jimmy to try again and to make another swing. But damn, I wish I'd been like a focus group for this. I'm like, could you make this two movies? Is there any way that you could make this like split? Anyway, but I do feel like it's just so uneven the way that it is, and I wish somebody in Demi's circle when she was making this had told her that and been like, you know what? It feels like you're making two movies. Why don't you just make two movies? Because that's what it feels like to me. So I'm gonna give Child Star a B minus. I'm not crazy about it. I like it more than that. It's gonna be one of those things where I probably put higher on the list than necessarily the grade I gave it, just because I enjoyed what it did and I enjoyed a lot of what it had to give. But the whole time I was like, girl, just make two documentaries. Just allow yourself the space to do that. But that's it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.